Todd and Julie Chrisley famously saw an early release from prison thanks to a presidential pardon. Since then, however, they've been sharing what their time was like behind bars with various outlets. In a recent share, the Chrisley Knows best stars have made surprising claims about what it was like adjusting to the outside world since their release. Todd and Julie Chrisley became known to fans through the USA Network series, Chrisley Knows Best. In 2022, however, the two were convicted of various charges, including tax evasion and bank fraud. This led to the couple getting sentenced to a combined 19 years behind bars. Back in May, however, the couple saw an early release thanks to a presidential pardon from President Donald Trump. Following their release, Todd and Julie have been sharing their story with various outlets. Recently, Todd and Julie talked about their release on their podcast series, Chrisley Confessions 2.0. During the conversation, they shared that they'd actually had some difficulties adjusting to life in the outside world, despite their early release. Julie noted that she spoke with other women in her position. She shared, "I've actually talked to a few of the women that I was in prison with that are already home. And we all have this general consensus that it's kind of weird to even say it." Todd reassured her, "No, it's not weird. Life is rougher than prison life. I mean, that's a sad thing to say because it is so horrific. The conditions that you're there for, but that's from a physical standpoint. But from an emotional and psychological standpoint, it is harder dealing with day to day." Julie then highlighted how inmates have a lack of control in their lives during their time in prison. She shared, "There's very little you can do because you're in prison. And people told me this when I first got there. You can't live out there and in here at the same time because they'll literally run you crazy. And the longer you're there, the more removed you become to the world." The Chrisley Knows Best matriarch continued, noting that inmates eventually get accustomed to their new lives. She added, "The longer that people are away from their kids, as crazy as it sounds, because it's a double-edged sword, the easier it becomes because you get into your own routine." That said, the couple shared that they were grateful to get a pardon. Todd even noted how it made the transition easier than if they just finished their set time. He explained, "We didn't have to go to a halfway house. So we don't have to answer to a probation officer. We're not limited as to where we can go and how we can move. So I think we were thrown right back into the real world." Did you watch Todd and Julie Chrisley during their recent podcast episode? Make sure to come back to TV Shows Ace for all the latest reality TV and celebrity news. When the gates closed behind them, Todd and Julie Chrisley were no longer reality TV royalty. The lavish homes, designer wardrobes, and tailored camera-ready lives they once curated with precision now felt like relics of another lifetime, one they weren't sure they could return to or even wanted to. After serving time in separate federal facilities for bank fraud and tax evasion, the Chrisleys stepped out of incarceration into a world both familiar and utterly foreign. The lights were still bright, the media still watchful, and their names still buzzed online. But everything had changed. Adjusting to life after prison wasn't a chapter they had prepared for, even with all their former talk of faith, family, and resilience. In private moments now, they acknowledge how unready they were for the emotional toll reentry would take, not just on their marriage or public personas, but on their identities. Once known for their sharp wit, southern charm, and firm grip on control, both Todd and Julie have found post-prison life to be a disorienting experience, full of vulnerability, awkward self-reflection, and a haunting uncertainty about the future. New reality. Without the show before prison, their lives had revolved around Chrisley Knows Best, a long-running USA Network reality series that followed the couple and their children through their over-the-top Southern lifestyle. Cameras captured everything from Todd's micromanaging ways to Julie's calm supportiveness. But after sentencing in 2022, the show's production halted indefinitely, leaving the Chrisleys not just out of work, but out of orbit. Now, instead of scenes scripted by circumstance and produced for entertainment, the Chrisleys find themselves scripting a new life from scratch. One that includes court-mandated restitution payments, probation restrictions, and a skeptical public waiting to see if their redemption arc will ring true or hollow. Even within the protective bubble of their close-knit family, readjusting hasn't been smooth. Their absence fractured up on camera had to mature quickly, stepping into roles their parents once filled. Rebuilding trust with loved ones, especially those who suffered under the public scrutiny or financial strain of the couple's convictions, has proven to be both necessary and difficult. Personal reckoning and private doubts, though outwardly composed, Todd and Julie have wrestled internally with a complicated mixture of guilt, shame, and lingering denial. Prison, by its nature, forces a stripping down of ego. The designer suits, manicured image, and signature confidence Todd once exuded no longer served him behind bars. Julie, always more reserved in public, experienced incarceration differently, quieter, perhaps, but no less scaring. Their post-prison reality is marked not only by what they lost, freedom, status, autonomy, but by the sobering realization of what they may never fully regain. The simple acts of privacy and control, once taken for granted, now feel almost unreachable. In recent months, friends and insiders have noted that both Todd and Julie seem softer, more introspective. While they still carry the remnants of their trademark charm, the sparkle is dimmer, the tone more measured. Where once they might have deflected criticism or doubled down with bravado, they now appear to be engaging in quieter forms of reconciliation with their community, their faith, and themselves. The slow burn of reintegration, adjusting to life after incarceration, is never easy, especially under the spotlight. There's no playbook for reclaiming one's place in the world when that world has moved on. For the Chrisleys, that process has been complicated by their fame. Every misstep is magnified. Every attempt to rebuild is viewed through the lens of their past transgressions. Todd, once the family's self-proclaimed patriarch and manager, now struggles with not being the provider in the way he once was. Employment opportunities for felons are limited, even more so for those in the public eye. The couple is reportedly exploring ways to use their notoriety to advocate for criminal justice reform, perhaps seeing it as a way to turn their downfall into purpose. Still, cynics remain unconvinced, wondering whether this is genuine reflection or strategic rebranding. Julie, meanwhile, has focused more on the quiet parts of healing, home, health, and reestablishing relationships. But sources close to her say that her time away fundamentally altered her confidence. She no longer views life as a series of tasks to manage and control, but rather a terrain to navigate, one unpredictable day at a time. A family on edge. The Chrisley's children have each coped differently with their parents' fall from grace. Savannah, the most public of the siblings, has tried to maintain a united front, often stepping into a parental role for her younger brother Grayson and niece Chloe. But the emotional cost of carrying that weight shows in her increasingly candid public comments and social media reflections. The family dynamic, once centered around Todd and Julie, has become more horizontal. Shared leadership, shared grief, shared recovery. This decentralization, while emotionally taxing, may ultimately serve the family well in the long run. The Chrisleys are no longer living a reality show. They're living reality. Moving forward with uncertainty, the Chrisleys are under no illusion that the world is waiting to welcome them back with open arms. Public forgiveness is neither guaranteed nor easy to earn. But they seem to understand now that forgiveness isn't something granted from a studio audience or a social media following. It's something they must earn day by day, mostly out of the spotlight. Faith has always played a role in their narrative, and it continues to serve as a grounding force. Yet even their spiritual life has taken on a more somber, less performative tone. Where once scripture might have been quoted on cue for the camera, now it appears to be a source of genuine inner struggle and solace. Their days are quieter now. Mornings start earlier, nights feel longer. They attend mandatory counseling, abide by strict supervision, and handle mundane tasks that once would have been delegated to assistants or ignored altogether. These routines, though small, mark a dramatic shift from their previous lives. They're not plotting a comeback, at least not in the traditional sense. No flashy new series, no tell-all books, at least not yet. The Chrisleys are, for now, simply trying to exist in a world where their last name carries a different weight. Public fascination and private lives America has long been fascinated by the fall and potential redemption of its celebrities, especially those who once lived so loudly. For the Chrisleys, whose